NFL trade deadline coming up 4 Eastern today. A couple of the trades have already been made over the last 24 hours or so. You see them at the top. These are all the trades that have happened, the big names, I guess, that have traded places over the last month or so since the start of October. Earlier today, Melvin Ingram traded from the Steelers to the Chiefs. Yesterday, big one, Von Miller from the Broncos to the Rams, and some of those other guys changing places recently. Let's bring in Ryan Wilson, who's going to give us a list of buyers and sellers today and who these teams should be buying and selling. And let's start with one of those trades that we already saw, because you had the Chiefs as buyers here. You thought Melvin Ingram would look good in red. Why do you think that's a good fit for the Chiefs at this point?
Well, the Steelers signed Melvin Ingram in the offseason because they needed help at the edge rush position. Bud Dupree had signed with the Titans, and there was a void there behind T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, their second-year player. And I would imagine Ingram came into Pittsburgh understanding that, but he wanted more reps. He wasn't happy with his playing time, and they came to an agreement, Pittsburgh and Ingram did, to move on from him. So the Steelers get a sixth-round pick. The Chiefs, whose defense has been absolutely atrocious this season, and there was some of that was on display again last night against the Giants in a game they barely won. You bring edge rush help to that team. You can allow Chris Jones to move inside where he's more comfortable, and you can try to get after it and get a jump start on that defense that has just struggled at every level. And I think Ingram provides the athleticism. He looked really good in the few snaps that he played in Pittsburgh. He looked more like the guy we saw 2 years ago, not the one who battled injuries last year for the Chargers. And I think for a sixth-round pick, if you're the Chargers, who amazingly aren't in first place, they're behind the Raiders in that division, you have to do that, make that move, make that team better, and try to get things going defensively. Again, I can't believe I have to say this, in the hopes that it helps the offense feel less pressure to put up huge numbers, which they've been unable to do with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid so far this season.
Usually a team that's sitting there at 1-7 ahead of the deadline isn't going to be a buyer. Why do you think the Miami Dolphins should still go out and give the Texans what they want for Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, so that's the question. How much are you going to be willing to give the Texans what they want? How much has that changed? A lot of this, Chris, as you know, has to do with the off-field stuff surrounding Deshaun Watson and whether that gets sorted out and when it gets sorted out and whether teams, particularly the Dolphins, will be interested. But I think it makes that football team better if we're talking strictly on-field production and what Deshaun Watson brings as a quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa has been okay. He hasn't been great. The other sort of thing looming over the Dolphins' head is that they passed on Justin Herbert, who has been really good. And we know what you have in Deshaun Watson, the football player. We don't know if Tua's going to get ever close to that level. And again, this team is struggling. You mentioned they're a one-win outfit last year after winning 10 games. And I think you have to give serious consideration to giving the Texans at least close to what they want if you want to change the conversation on the field in Miami. And I think that's what we're going to find out in these last remaining hours here. Will the Dolphins be willing to do that, or do they want to stick with Tua and find other ways to solve these problems, which, through 2 months of the season have yet to be solved?
Coincidentally, Dolphins and Texans playing each other this Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, both with identical 1-7 records. Moving on with teams that Ryan Wilson believes should be buyers at the deadline, the Cleveland Browns, who are right there in playoff contention, but in the danger zone at 4-4. Who should the Browns go out and get?
Yeah, it's hard to believe this team has lost 3 straight. They're now on the outside looking into the playoff race, and they need to change that very quickly. Yes, Baker Mayfield's injured, but he made enough plays on Sunday against the Steelers to win that football game. Jarvis Landry had 3 uncharacteristic drops. He had an uncharacteristic fumble that cost him that game. But they don't have a legit deep threat. Odell Beckham's out there. Baker Mayfield's not targeting him as often as Odell and Odell's dad apparently would like. And you need a legit deep threat to open up that offense, because teams are just sitting 8 in the box to stop the run, and then all the underneath stuff that Baker likes to do. So why not go out and get Deshaun Jackson, who flashed early in the year with the Rams? It sounds like he and the Rams are fine parting ways. He's not getting the looks that he would like. Even though he's in his 30s, he is still one of the fastest players in the NFL, and you immediately open up the deep part of the field with him out there running go routes all afternoon. And if Baker can get the ball out there to him, we know he has the arm strength, it's just the injury concerns, then that's one more element to that offense that they haven't had so far this season. I think it makes sense. I don't imagine it would cost a lot in terms of draft capital for the Browns to make that move, and that's something I would like to see happen. Whether it does happen, we'll have to wait and see. It sounds like Odell Beckham is not going to be traded, at least as we sit here a couple hours from the trade deadline.
Offense really struggling, 17 points or fewer in each of their last 3 games. They've got the Bengals in a really big game this Sunday. Now to the sellers here from Ryan Wilson, and let's start with the Chicago Bears. I think this is an interesting conversation because To set the Bears up for the future, yeah. I mean, sell. I mean, I'm a Bears fan. I'd love to sell and get some draft picks, but you've got head coach Matt Nagy, GM Ryan Pace, who if they don't win now, they might be looking for a new job. So would they really go out and sell Allen Robinson?
Right, that's the dilemma. And the other dilemma, Chris, and you know this as well, what are you going to leave your quarterback with, the rookie quarterback? Who's he going to throw the ball to if Allen Robinson isn't there and you're Justin Fields? I think Robinson would be fine moving on from Chicago. I think he was like a more consistent quarterback prior to Justin Fields' season this year. But you're exactly right. There's a lot of math you have to do if you're trying to keep your job. And but if you're thinking about moving on from Allen Robinson, if you're building for the future, whether it's with Nagy and Pace or with someone else, I think there are a lot of places that would be very interested in what Allen Robinson brings. The Patriots make a ton of sense. The Steelers even make some sense. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster earlier in the year, and they're similar type players, big physical receivers who win at the catch point. The Saints haven't yet to get Michael Thomas back. They now have a quarterback situation they have to sort out, maybe get another pass catcher there. But at the end of the day, if you're Justin Fields, you want Allen Robinson at least for 2021, but I don't know if Allen Robinson wants to be there for more than a few more hours if he has his say in the matter.
Bears on Monday Night Football for some reason. Another primetime game for Chicago. They're at the Steelers next week. That total should be in the upper 30s, I would think. Moving on to another seller, the Indianapolis Colts, who are 3-5. They've got Marlon Mack behind Jonathan Taylor. And boy, I mean, he'd be a perfect fit in Tennessee now with the Derrick Henry injury, but no way they would trade him to a division rival and help them out.
That's right. So Jonathan Taylor is getting most of the touches, obviously. Nyheim Hines has his role, and then Marlon Mack has been sort of left out, flapping in the wind. The Titans, obviously, they're not going to trade inside the division. They signed Adrian Peterson. But it would make sense if you're just looking at it on paper. What are some other destinations that might make sense? The Chiefs, also in the conference, but they're not in the division. They lost Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He'll be back at some point, but the running game wasn't exactly firing on all cylinders when he was healthy. We know that Andy Reid tends to lean towards throwing the ball anyway, but they need more balance to get back to winning those football games. Mack, I like landing spot there. Maybe the Panthers. Christian McCaffrey struggled with that hamstring injury, had a setback with that. He hasn't been there yet. We know Sam Darnold's better when there's balance in that offense. And even the 49ers, who've had a ton of injuries at running back, and to help out, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it's Trey Lance or whomever, there are landing spots around the league where you can get some return in terms of draft capital if you're the Colts and you understand that you're moving forward with Jonathan Taylor and in those specialty roles, Nyheim Hines.
Really disappointing loss to the Titans, dropped them to 3-5, but they do have the Jets and Jags coming up in back-to-back weeks to try to get back to 500, stay in this playoff race. That Jets game this week is on Thursday. Ryan Wilson, thanks for the time as he gives us his buyers and sellers heading into the 4 p.m. trade deadline. You can hear Ryan on the Pick Six podcast, hosted daily by Will Brinson. Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.